Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Welcome into this mid-October episode of the Sports Ballers podcast. This is episode 214 of the show. I'm Corey Puffett hosting tonight and joined as always by Eric Meyer and Evan Ash. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. A little sore. I tried to get a workout in on the bike before the show and had a little mishap.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Had a physio ball roll into the wheel of the bike while I was doing a HIIT workout. I was 120 RPMs, head down, eyes closed, just focus on pedaling as fast as I could. So I didn't see it coming, and it stopped my legs like immediately. And so now my quads are in a bit of pain.
So the physio ball just rolled by its own volition?
Yes.
Nobody threw it or slapped it or kicked it?
No.
This sounds
I have no idea how this happened because I did not see it coming.
Oh boy, this sounds like one of that Mayhem commercial from Allstate, the exercise bike newbie.
It
How
does
do you
sound
crash
like
an exercise bike?
Riding 12 miles to nowhere.
You crashed a stationary bike. You're saying
It does sound a little bit like that. That is true.
it sounds exactly like
Well,
that.
at least you didn't fly over the
No,
handles.
I did not fly
door.
over the handlebars of a stationary bike.
That would have been something else.
All right, already off the rails, so on brand for us. Today on the show, we got NBA opening night to talk about, a couple of games that were played last night. We got LCS action, the League Championship Series are underway in Major League Baseball. And of course, we got a lot to talk about with the NFL. Let's go ahead and just start with the NBA. Opening night, Tuesday, October 18th, we had two games, the Warriors and the Lakers, and the Celtics and the 76ers, the defending NBA Finals champion and the defending NBA Finals runner-up, both winning their games. I did watch a good bit of the Warriors-Lakers game. Wasn't paying super close attention because I was also doing some work last night, but got a chance to see a good bit, and they look good. They look like they're on a mission to run it back.
Yeah, they didn't even play that well, and they still toyed with the Lakers and pretty much crushed them in the third quarter. They were up by 27 at one point. The starters came out. I said, we'll see Steph again, and then LeBron stayed in for the early part of the fourth quarter, and they went on a little bit of a run, and so Steph had to come back in and comes in, he hits a three, and then he puts the okey doke on Anthony Davis and just thoroughly cooks him, and then he gets fouled on another three and makes it, so it's a 4-point play, and 3 straight possessions, 9 points, and the game's over again. And Steph can go sit back down.
The game's over again.
So, yeah, like they look great. The shooting wasn't really there. Steph only shot 4 of 13 from 3, although one of them was like a half-court heave at the end of a quarter. So, really 4 of 12 if we're being real about it. Yeah. So, certainly by his standards, not great, but not awful. Jordan Poole didn't knock down his threes in the second half, although he looked pretty good through most of the game. Wiggins' shot was off, and yet it felt like they were in control the entire time. I only caught like towards the tail end of the second quarter because I was out last night, but I saw the second half of the second quarter and then the entirety of the second half, and again, they looked like the better team pretty much every possession of the game.
Well, there's a play that stood out to me pretty early in the game where Steph dribbled the ball past half court and pretty quickly toss it up to the opposite corner toward Andrew Wiggins. And Wiggins was not ready for it. It didn't look like he was looking for a pass at all, but he was able to adjust, make the catch, and then hit a pull-up mid-range jumper that was not an easy shot, and he knocked it down. So while his shot was a little bit off the rest of the night, he did hit some nice shots. He looked pretty good. No, I mean the Warriors look solid.
Yeah, like, when I say they didn't shoot well, I'm particularly talking about from three.
Right.
Well,
because that's what what we typically expect from Warriors basketball is that they're going to make threes.
Typically, when we talk about anybody in terms of their shooting, it's usually referring to how they shot from outside. But
the mid-range game is all but lost in today's NBA.
yeah, and the assumption is if you're missing your mid-range shots, it's because you didn't get enough space. Whereas 3-point shots is pretty much, are you good enough to make these or not? Because you don't usually see too many people taking contested threes unless you're Steph Curry. So the Warriors' shooting as a whole will improve in all likelihood. But I will say Klay Thompson looked very good, specifically on offense. His three ball started to fall in the second half. He looked like he had a little bounce in his step. Definitely an improvement from where we saw him at the beginning of, not the beginning of last year because he wasn't playing, but when he first returned. He's come a long way in that regard. Obviously, his conditioning needs to be up because he didn't have much of a preseason. Had to get over a mental block of playing like pickup games because that's when he suffered his Achilles injury. So it took him a little while to get ramped up. The bench looks good for Golden State. Their new acquisitions. Dante DiVincenzo didn't have the best game, although he got going a little bit in the fourth quarter. But you saw what he can bring to this team when he's clicking. He wasn't hitting his outside shots either. But JaMychal Green was outstanding, I thought. And he was sort of the unheralded pickup for Golden State.
Unheralded?
Yes, unheralded, Evan. Just for you, buddy, just for you. But he's got length, he can shoot. But I was really impressed with some of the passes that he made where he was in a post-up position and he just fired a quick pass across the court for a skip pass. He hit DiVincenzo right in the shooting pocket, but he couldn't knock it down. And I'm like, if he adds that to this team's bench unit, they're going to go 10-11 deep, and their bench players are going to be beating people's starters. And there's going to be a lot of situations where they're going to be playing people's starters because their starters are chilling because they're up by 25. So it was definitely reassuring. James Wiseman looked good. He had some moments where he and Poole connected on pick and rolls and him diving to the hoop. Jordan Poole looked very good as a playmaker as well. Like, you could go down the list. The only player that I would say didn't have any moments where he really stood out as looking good was Draymond Green. Yeah. But he wasn't bad. He just wasn't typical disruptive, dominating on defense Draymond Green. And it felt like the Warriors kind of at times were trying to put on a show more so than just focus on winning because it's opening night, it's ring night, and because they knew they weren't going to lose to this Lakers team that's completely incapable of competing with them in a real game. They were toying with them pretty much the entire game.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, with the exception of that one short stretch at the beginning of the fourth quarter when the Lakers seemed to be going on a little bit of a run that, ultimately led to Steph Curry coming back into the game. Like, the best that the Lakers could do was to basically bring the momentum back to, like, the middle. They never really got momentum swayed toward them.
No.
The Warriors were either pulling away or it was just like a static lead that wasn't really shifting much. It was never the Lakers really cutting into it or looking like they were capable of making a run to take a lead.
No, not at all. And again, didn't see the first quarter. My understanding is that was the only quarter that Anthony Davis looked like old school Anthony Davis, where he was physical, he was dominant in the paint. Because when I got back home and I was watching the game, specifically the second half, I was like, man, this guy does not look... He looks like the same guy I saw last year, which was a greatly diminished version of the player that we had come to see win a championship in the bubble and be such a highly coveted player for the Lakers, which resulted in them trading all their young players for him, and all of us said, oh yeah, that's worth it. Like, he hasn't been that guy really ever since 2021 when he got hurt. He strained his groin against the Suns in the first round of the playoffs, and since then he's been pretty mediocre by his own standards. So if he's not going to be good, which I kind of figured he wouldn't be because I just don't think he's the same player anymore, this Lakers team's going to be as bad as they were last year because they didn't improve their team. They changed their team a lot. They got rid of a lot of the older veterans. Carmelo Anthony's not here. Dwight Howard's gone. Trevor Ariza is not here anymore. But they replaced them with a bunch of young guys who aren't good. Right? Like, it's not like they went out and got some guys who could be like, oh, yeah, that guy. It's like, these are guys I've never even heard of. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? There's some guy named Matt Ryan playing for them. And he's not the quarterback. So I don't really understand what their plan was.
The maybe still really good quarterback? We'll get to that later.
He's whatever. But the Lakers, just one more thing about the Lakers, and it's not really about the Lakers. It really pissed me off today. It was about J.J. Redick, who we generally like as an analyst. But sometimes he does this thing where he is a little disingenuous with the takes and a little bit of a propagandist, and that happened this morning, where he went on First Take and told the world that we should focus on the individual greatness of LeBron James and sort of ignore the fact that the Lakers are terrible. And since when did winning not matter in sports? It's why you play.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying you can't acknowledge that LeBron James is still good at basketball, but to ignore the fact that the Lakers stink,
And
no,
they do.
That's the story. That is not part of the story. That's the story, is the fact that the Los Angeles Lakers stink. And if you think that they stink in spite of LeBron, that's an even bigger story as far as I'm concerned. Why is this guy so good and yet the team is so bad? That still should be the headliner. And what bothers me about this is because it seems like people want LeBron James to be able to cash in some chips here, to be able to say, look at this great season he had. And my response to that is, no. His legacy is founded on winning. And he's not going to surpass any ghosts that he's chasing, namely Michael Jordan, by scoring 30 points a game on a team that finishes in 11th place again. That's not going to happen. So the suggestion by JJ Redick that this would happen, it's pure LeBron James propaganda. And nobody else would get away with that because you're saying, okay, we should still pay attention to the Lakers even though they're horrible. No, we start ignoring bad teams. We ignore them, we shelf them, we say, you're not interesting. We're going to talk about the good teams like the Denver Nuggets or the Boston Celtics or the Golden State Warriors or other good teams. But JJ wants the focus to just be on LeBron. That ain't how it goes. This isn't a retirement tour. This isn't Kobe where everybody knew he was washed and the team stunk, and so we were just like, Kobe's retiring, let's celebrate Kobe's legacy. No, we are not going to add this as a notch in LeBron James's belt and pretend like this season is more than it is just because he has a lot of good individual games.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not going to, nobody should subject themselves to 82 games of a terrible team just for one player.
No, not at all. Like, the reason why we got excited about what Steph did in 2021, even though we knew the Warriors were not going to win the title that year, was because he made them competitive. Like, yeah, scoring 32 points a game and hitting all these threes, that's wonderful, but if your team stinks, we don't care. But the interesting part about it was he was making that bad Warriors roster look like they could beat somebody in the playoffs. That's why it was interesting. If the Lakers don't win, I don't care. Okay? And yes, I know LeBron James is chasing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record, but that's more of a Lifetime Achievement Award thing than what he's doing specifically right now, because what he's doing specifically right now is losing a lot of basketball games, and if you want to be cynical about it, last night he was padding his stats.
Yeah, wake me up when he's 40 points away from it. Then maybe I'll pay attention briefly.
And then when he does it, we'll celebrate it for a day or two, and then we'll move on to teams that actually are good.
Right. We'll go back to ignoring them.
Yes.
Did you get a chance to catch any of the Celtics 76ers game?
I caught the highlights that they showed on Inside the NBA. I have the game taped, but I haven't had a chance to go actually watch it. But it kind of went maybe how I thought it would. Celtics hosting the Sixers. I think the Celtics are a tough matchup for Philadelphia. They've got the ability to defend both of their wing or their guard play. Tyrese Maxey and James Harden are both explosive players even now. James Harden looked great last night, but just when you've got Tatum and Brown and Marcus Smart, that's a recipe to stop those guys. And then I don't think Philly's got the defense at this point to contain Jason Tatum, to contain Jaylen Brown. Right? Like, Joel Embiid's he's a top-notch rim protector when he wants to be, but I think regular season, he might coast a little bit on the defensive end just because 82 games, he always seems to get hurt right at the end of the season, which compromises their playoff run. So I think regular season-wise, Philly's team defense is not going to be up to snuff, especially because it's not like he has anybody reliable on the perimeter to keep people out of the paint. And so if they're going to be a good defense, he's going to have to be the reason why.
Now, let me ask you this. In the NBA, how much does defense factor into the MVP conversation? Like, does he need to be able to play it? Like, does he need to play some defense to, get the MVP, which you said last week you think that he's probably the front runner to get that? Or can he get that purely off of what he does offensively?
Well, to be clear, he's not a bad defender. He's just not quite the level that he was a couple years ago where he was arguably the best defensive big man in the sport. and he's still going to cash in on that reputation. Like, we see that happen all the time where star players that are known as good defenders get credit for being good defenders well after they stopped being good defenders. Like, again, the great Kobe Bryant was an excellent perimeter defender for a while, but he was still making all defense teams when he was like 33 and wasn't guarding anybody anymore. Just because they're like, oh yeah, Kobe, he's a great defender, he's tenacious, all that stuff. So Joel Embiid will get some credit for that. And if he ends up averaging 30 points a game like he did last year, and the team ends up being a team that wins 57 to 62 games or something like that, and ends up being the 1 seed, he's going to be the front runner because he's going to get some credit for defense, even if it's not necessarily deserved. And he's going to be seen as the guy that elevated that team to contending status.
Okay. Let's move on to some Major League Baseball. The division series wrapped up technically 2 days ago for the Yankees, at least. The Yankees managed to hold on, or I'm sorry, no, yesterday.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was last night. The Yankees managed to come back from a 2-1 deficit to beat the Guardians 3-2. Big game yesterday, including an Aaron Judge home run and a 3-run, I believe it was Giancarlo Stanton who hit the first inning 3-run home run that kind of opened the floodgates. The Astros, meanwhile, swept the Mariners 3-0, so they've gotten some time to rest heading into this ALCS, which is just about to get underway. It's almost 7:17 here as we're recording this, and that game is scheduled to start at 7:37. Jameson Taillon is going to head up against Justin Verlander after Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortes had to pitch games 4 and 5 of the division series. So the Yankees definitely had a little bit of a disadvantage here, having to put their top 2 pitchers in the last 2 games. I mean, they're not going to be available for a few, at least 2 more nights probably. Plus, they got no rest between the end of the ALDS and the start of the ALCS because what was supposed to be a Game 5 on Monday wound up being postponed due to weather and played yesterday. And then they have to travel all the way down to Houston for this game tonight. So definitely a disadvantage for them, but still got to go out there and play the game. What do we think about this series coming up?
Well, I'll say the Yankees' disadvantage in this series is entirely their fault. If they had gotten the 1 seed, I mean, like remember back in May when the Yankees were the best team of all time, and we're going to challenge the 1927 Yankees and the 1907 Cubs for, they're going to win 130 games and stuff, and then it all fell apart. If they'd finished as the 1 seed, like, maybe they should have, they would be hosting, and they would have gotten to play a much weaker, maybe Mariners team in the division series. So, and I mean, rain is part of life, right? Like, there was a plan to build a dome on New Yankee Stadium, and that didn't happen.
I mean, I don't know. I hesitate to call the Mariners a much weaker team than the Guardians. Like, I think the Yankees gave 2 games away against the Guardians that they should not have given away, and I don't see any reason to suspect that they would not have done that against the Mariners as well.
And
the Mariners were a fraudulent team. Okay, they just. I feel like they cruised into the playoffs by playing the Rangers and the Angels and the A's all the time.
The Guardians didn't cruise into the playoffs by playing Kansas City and Detroit and Minnesota
and Chicago,
which was also bad.
Like I don't buy that. And
no, Cleveland could pitch though.
Seattle could hit.
Yeah, well, I mean, still waiting for them to score a run in Game 3.
Well.
Don't hold your breath.
So I'm not going to sit there and say, well, this is all the Yankees' fault, because this kind of fell how it's supposed to fall. The Astros won 106 games. That's a lot of games, right? Mm-hmm. The Yankees still won 99 games. So we did not predict the Yankees to be that good this year. We thought they might win 90 games. We picked them to be a wild card team and to be a wild card exit team. We certainly didn't have them in the ALCS going up against the Astros. It's okay to just say the Astros were the better team during the regular season. I mean, the records don't lie. and particularly after the first couple of months, right? The Yankees hit a slide, the Astros got hot and have stayed hot. That's the way it goes. So right now the Yankees are certainly underdogs in this series. But I mean, I give them credit for coming back, and they were down 2-1 against Cleveland, and Garrett Cole pitched his ass off in Game 4 as he did in Game 1. So he stepped up. We talked about it months ago that Garrett Cole was going to have to pitch well if the Yankees wanted to have a realistic shot at winning the World Series, and he's done that so far. Now, does that continue in the ALCS? That remains to be seen, and we'll probably only see him start one game.
Right.
But as of right now, he's the reason why Nestor Cortes deserves his props too for pitching well in Game 5.
Yeah.
But Garrett Cole won you 2 games.
Right.
So he deserves credit for that, and I give him also plenty of credit for winning the game even after that ass clown decided to rock the baby and do it the whole way around the bases. Like, it's not like he did it rounding first when the ball flew over the fence for a home run that didn't even take the lead or even tie the game.
Right, yeah. Like that home run didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things if you couldn't score again. So what are you doing? Like, I love that there were people on Twitter who were getting mad at the Yankees for rocking the baby after they won the series. I'm like, dude, the guy acted like a clown. He deserves that.
Yeah, he 100% deserved it. Again, I'm all for pimping home runs and admiring your home run, but when you're legitimately yelling at the pitcher, "You're my effing son," and trying to cradle him, it's like, that's disrespect, man. Like, again, I said it on the chat.
That happened.
Yeah, that was part of the equation. Is he was carping at Cole as he was rounding the bases again the whole time. It's not like he did it once as he was rounding first. He was like making a big show of it the whole time. It's like, dude, come on. You had your fun. Now finish rounding the bases and let's keep playing baseball. Your team's still down 3-2.
Well, he gets to go back to Cleveland while the Yankees get to keep playing baseball. I don't like their chances, but the hope would be that if the Yankees can find a way to win this series, Garrett Cole would be available Game 1 of the World Series. Because we're probably only... I highly doubt that we're going to see him more than once in the series because I don't think he's going to really be able to realistically pitch until Game 3 or 4, right? Like, he'll be ready by Game 4, maybe Game 3, but that might be pushing it. And at that point, he's not going to pitch Game 7 if it goes to that. So...
Yeah, we're looking pretty far ahead here. Like we're thinking
well, that's why I'm saying. Like, the hope would be that if the Yankees can pull it out, that would it would lend itself to a pretty good situation for the pitching when we get to the World Series. But that's still a big if. If the Yankees can win.
Has there ever been a more insufferable quote unquote underdog team than the Cleveland Guardians? Between their antics with the social media team. We already talked about Josh Naylor. The fans whining about the rain out, saying it's a big conspiracy theory or something like that.
Y'all could have started like one of your top 2 pitchers.
Started Shane Bieber, the Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah, you could have started him on the same amount of rest as Nestor Cortes.
They didn't. They went with some guy who you knew was going to get rocked, and sure enough, first inning, 3-run homer.
What did you expect to happen? Emmanuel Clase against the Yankees? That doesn't end well.
Emmanuel Clase didn't start.
Oh, I thought he was the one who gave up the. Oh, then who?
Savale started.
Oh, Savale. Yeah. Savale. The other C. Yeah.
Yeah, you were close.
Not really.
not at all. But I was gonna give it to you.
I appreciate
your team won, and so I'll give you your due. Because again, it's well documented. Evan and I both hate the Yankees for obvious reasons. But so we were.
Y'all didn't even have like an underdog that was fun to root for against them here.
Yeah, like when the Guardians lost, I was kind of like, I almost had a smirk on my face as it was happening because I'm like, normally when the Yankees beat somebody, I'm like, great, another series with the Yankees. Here we go. Now I got to root for the Astros, which is similarly annoying because I don't really like them. But
are you rooting for either team really?
I'm rooting.
Or are
for
you
the
just
Astros.
rooting for whoever wins in the NL?
Well, I'm going to root for whoever wins in the NL over whoever wins in the AL, but I still got to root for somebody to win the AL, and I prefer it to be the Astros. Because the thing is, if the Astros win the pennant and they go on to beat either the Phillies or the Padres, that's a disappointing outcome. If the Yankees win the World Series, it's a disaster. Like, I'm sorry. It just
see.
is.
Even if and again, it may be impossible to actually do this, but doing my absolute best to sincerely take myself out of my fandom right, and look at this as objectively as I am capable of doing, I would prefer for the Astros to never win anything because it helps to support the case that maybe they were only good because they were stealing signs. And they were so obnoxious about it that I kind of want to be able to believe that they're bad.
Well, but that's
They won
also
106 games.
That's also because that cheating was
I guess
at
a
the
really weak
expense of
division.
That cheating came at the expense of your team too, so you would really like to believe that you guys got hosed as some type of victim complex. Whereas, I personally,
Maybe that is factoring in. I don't know.
From a bigger picture, from my viewpoint, is if the Astros win more, then we can finally just put this crap to bed and acknowledge that they were good. Whereas before, it's just like,
put it to bed.
You don't. I don't really care that much. Okay, I'm over it. And obviously, if the Yankees win the World Series, they deserve their credit. And there's no shade to Corey personally. It's the other Yankee fans that Corey knows about. It can be a little much. Although again, the Guardians gave him a run for their money this season, so go Padres, man. Objectively speaking, the Padres fan base deserves it the most.
I
they
agree
definitely
with that.
do.
I agree with that.
So, if it's not your favorite team, root for the Padres.
Didn't I pick the Padres to beat the Yankees in the World Series last year?
Yeah, that didn't happen.
It did not happen. I might have just been a year early.
We'll see.
Moving on to the NL, the Phillies beat the Braves 3-1, and the Padres beat the Dodgers 3-1. That one was a big surprise to me.
Everybody.
The Phillies-Braves series was mildly surprising, but the Phillies have been hot lately, and as much as we made fun of the Mets for collapsing, the Braves really didn't look that great down the stretch either. So I kind of saw this coming. But now the Phillies are playing the Padres in the NLCS. They beat the Padres 2-0 yesterday, and right now they are in the middle of Game 2. The Padres have a 7-4 lead in the bottom of the 6th inning, trying to tie that series 1-1. Aaron Nola was the starter today for the Phillies, and Blake Snell was the starter for the Padres. I believe both of them are now out of the game at this point.
I'm sure with that many runs,
I
we
would
would give
assume
them
so.
Yeah. So, any thoughts on that series other than just the fact that you're rooting for the Padres?
Well, the Phillies are not unlikable, I guess, except for the fact that they're a Philadelphia team. But the players themselves are fine. I don't have any issue with Bryce Harper anymore. Most of my disdain for him was the fact that he was a Nat, although he was certainly capable of bringing some ire himself because he was a pretty boy and stuff like that. But he seems like a cool enough dude, I guess. And they have Aaron Nola, who led the league in Fangraphs WAR among starting pitching. I was surprised to see it. Not overly surprised because I knew he had a great year, but I figured it would be Alcantara from the Marlins, who's the favorite to win the Cy Young. I figured he would be up the top.
Alcantara kind of he had a stretch kind of in the middle end of the season where he sort of struggled a bit.
It's also easy to lose sight of him because, again, J.J. Redick, he played for a bad team and nobody cared about the Marlins in August and September because they weren't in the pennant race, whereas the Phillies were. But he
can't also bat like Shohei. We at least sort of still pay attention to Shohei a little bit.
Well, we also all want Shohei on our team. So, because he's pissed and doesn't want to be there apparently anymore, and everybody's like, ooh. And Orioles Twitter's saying, let's trade all of our good prospects for Shohei. And I'm like, can y'all relax? Just a little bit.
You wouldn't do that?
Not for 1 year of him, no. Because he's only got one more year left on his deal, then he's a free agent. So, no, I'm not doing that.
I think the Orioles should sign him as a free agent.
Yes, that's what they should do.
Yeah,
but what if somebody else trades for him and then extends him?
Then you win some, you lose some.
They missed out.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you trade for him and then extend him right away? That way you don't have to worry about him becoming a free agent.
But then you traded for him and paid him. You want to do one or the other.
Yeah. I'm not going to trade away a haul of prospects for one player, even though he's actually two players, and then have to give him a huge-ass contract, and then suddenly, now we don't have any money to pay Adley or Gunnar, and, Shohei's stuck in the same situation just 3,000 miles further east.
But now he's playing for your team.
That's true, but we still suck. I don't want to suck anymore. I want to be good. I don't want to be suck.
All right. Let's talk some college football. Tennessee beat Alabama Am I reading that right? Yes.
Yeah,
Tennessee
it
beat
happens.
Alabama 52-49. What a high-scoring game.
So good.
101 points. The first time since 2006 that Tennessee has won that game. Alabama still leads the series 58-39 plus 7 ties. I did not watch any of this game. Did you guys watch any of this game?
I watched a good amount of this game because Evan and I like college football. Yeah, so I was switching back and forth between this and the Maryland game. It was great. Saturday was just an unbelievable sports day. You had 4 baseball games on. 3 of them were really interesting. The Mariners-Astros 18-inning game. That was the day that the Yankees...
18? That was just 16.
No, it was 18.
Really?
Yes, that's why I made the statement that the Mariners got to see their team play 2 whole playoff games at home. And you were like, it was only 1. And I was like, you're not understanding my joke.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so that was an 18-inning marathon for that one. You had the Yankees-Guardians game where they blew the lead. Sorry. But y'all ended up winning the series anyway, so it's all good. And then the Padres rallied to beat the Dodgers when it looked like that was going to go because they were down 3-0.
Yeah.
And they put up 5 runs, I think, in the bottom of the 7th inning. So those are 3 awesome baseball games. And, of course, the Phillies also eliminated the Braves. And then you got this awesome, ridiculous, stupid college football game that was all of those things and then some. I mean, Saban had some goofy clock management, which you don't usually see that from Nick Saban because he's Nick Saban. The Bama missed a field goal that would have won it probably. And then since good field position came from the missed kick, Bama's DBs were not guarding anybody apparently. And so 2 quick throws in Tennessee's in field goal range. It looked like the ball didn't get blocked on the kick. It was just a really ugly knuckle.
Chunked it.
It was just a knuckleball type of kick where it just kind of floated up. And I was like, oh boy, that might not even make it to the uprights. It was only a 40-yard attempt, so you should have the leg for it, even for a college kicker. And I'm like, oh crap, that's going to fall short. And it just eked over the goalpost for the win. And I was like, this is college football. Like this is why we tune in. And then the fans stormed the field. They took the goalpost down. They chucked it in the river. Just all of that was just awesome. So
Good for them. Yeah, good for Tennessee. I got to see the
good for
end of this
America.
game.
It's always good when Alabama loses.
Not necessarily.
Well, if you root against Georgia, you like to have Alabama around to big brother them. But
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's always good to see
otherwise,
Alabama lose.
I was in New York on this past weekend in some stories that I'll get to later. So I got to see the end of this game, but like while I was waiting for the subway, like every time I checked my phone, one of the teams scored again. So it was just one crazy play after another. There was a botched. The play that sticks out in my mind was toward the end of the game, the botched handoff that gets scooped and scored for an Alabama touchdown. I think right after Alabama scored a touchdown to tie. Like, oh my goodness.
yeah, that felt like the game. I felt like the game was over.
Yeah,
Bama
I thought that was
win,
it.
yeah.
Well, Tennessee's done. But they marched right down the field to tie it right after that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how we felt during the DeMatha homecoming game when DeMatha had the botched handoff that was returned for a score. We were like, yep, McNamara's going to win this game. But then, no, I'm just kidding. We never thought that.
No, we didn't, because why would we?
Alex Mayo added that there were a crap load of penalties as well.
Yes, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a flag
Apparently
fest.
Saban had a meltdown over a muffed punt or something, I think. is what
Saban
happened.
had a meltdown. Never would have thought that.
Yeah. Breaking news. Yeah.
So, Evan, your Yellow Jackets are hosting Virginia tomorrow night. Thursday night college football action. I guess mercifully we could watch something other than the NFL because these last couple of Thursday night games have been buns. Georgia Tech is favored by 3 points against Virginia.
I don't know what's going on. Virginia must really suck if Georgia Tech is favored. Georgia Tech isn't good. I will say they have been playing, from the bits of games that I've seen, they have been like more fundamentally sound maybe, or they've just been playing like they know what they're supposed to be doing. Maybe the other teams once they get deeper into the conference schedule, maybe the teams will have better athletes, but it seemed like our guys were honestly paying attention.
Well, it is
the
nice
football
when
game.
football players know what they're supposed to do, because it seems like we've been missing a little bit of that at the NFL level this year. It's been a little rough. You taking Virginia and the points, or are you taking Georgia Tech?
Yes.
Oh,
Virginia and the points. Are you kidding me? Defense is terrible, right? Like, the other team's getting points. Just when I was in school, all the Virginia games were just nightmares. Because we lost to them on homecoming one year. We were about to Georgia Tech and Clemson were both 6-0, and Tech was hosting Clemson in a couple weeks. So we were thinking college game day was coming to campus, but we went up to Virginia and lost. So no more college game day after that. So stuff like that.
My Hawkeyes, Iowa, are visiting number 2 Ohio State for Big Noon Saturday.
Yes.
So
you're going to be tuning in for this one, right, Corey?
No.
I can't wait not to watch this game.
That's going to be a beatdown.
Yeah.
Number 14, Syracuse is at Clemson, who is ranked number 5. That's a noon game on ABC. Probably the most competitive game, certainly on paper, of the week is going to be number 9, UCLA, and number 10, Oregon. That game is being played in Oregon. That'll be 3:30 p.m. on Fox on Saturday. Either of you guys going to tune in for that Pac-12 action?
It depends on what else I have going on
Maybe.
Saturday. It's possible. Probably watch the Terps instead. Although
What's how the Terps play?
I actually don't know. It's homecoming, so usually it's mid-afternoon, but I haven't actually bothered to look. I usually just find them on the dial the day of the game. But they're playing Northwestern. Talia Tagovailoa is probably not going to play. He suffered re-aggravated his knee injury that he had a slight MCL sprain against Michigan.
So he's out as soon as it looks like Tua is coming back.
I'm assuming he's out. He's been listed as a game-time decision, but it would be ill-advised to play him given the fact that
Who will start if he can't go?
I forget what the guy's name is. It's some ginger-looking guy. Brad Edwards or Bobby Edwards or whatever.
That's
Billy,
not
Ryan
offensive at all.
Scalabrine.
Billy Edwards, I think. Is it Billy Edwards?
Well, 214 episodes, folks. It's been a nice run.
I'm sorry. I don't know. Yeah, it's Billy Edwards. Okay, I got it right.
I still want to see some more Eric Nigerian at the quarterback for the Terps.
Who's this?
Come on. Really?
I don't know who that is.
He came in the game 2 or 3 years ago when everybody was getting hurt.
That was 8 years ago.
Well, he just got a scholarship this year.
Okay, well maybe
there was a video that Merrill
yeah,
put
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah,
when
yeah,
he
that's
got
right.
the scholarship.
That's right. Okay.
I'm waiting
linebacker who
for
was playing
Alex to
quarterback?
type something in the chat to chastise you for being like, "Who's that?"
Well, I remember hearing about it. I wasn't all that worried about it. So anyway, Talia's probably going to sit against Northwestern because Northwestern stinks, and they should be able to beat them with Billy Edwards anyway. Then the Terps have a bye. Then they go to Wisconsin, so maybe you'll see him return in a couple weeks for that one.
Nothing on Eric Nigerian yet, but Alex did come out and say Billy the Kid.
There you go.
There you go. Other ranked versus ranked games this weekend. Number 20 Texas at number 11 Oklahoma State, 3:30 on ABC. Mississippi State's ranked 24th. They are visiting number 6 Alabama at 7 p.m. on ESPN. And then number 8 TCU is hosting number 17 Kansas State at 8 o'clock on FS1. Let's move on to the real football, which has also been really bad lately. This has been a terrible season of NFL action. Absolute, almost unbearable. Actually unbearable at times. It's been bad. One of the really bad teams potentially is, Evan, your Ravens, who had another spectacular meltdown against the New York Giants. Your Ravens are now 3-3, and in the 3 games that they have lost, they have trailed for a grand total of 2 minutes and 8 seconds. 128 seconds. To put it in
they
perspective,
trailed in
somebody
14
made a
seconds
chart.
against-
Made a chart of all of the 3 lost teams in the NFL and how much combined time they spent trailing in just the 3 games that they lost. And the next fewest number of seconds after the Ravens in their 128 was more than 3,000 seconds.
3,000 seconds? Yeah.
So
that's almost
the
an
Ravens
hour.
get leads, but they can't hold on to them. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I guess we have to start with the defense because the defense can't defend much of anything. They get run over in the run game. They get absolutely toasted in the pass game. I think Mike McDonald's in over his head. First-year defensive coordinator for the Ravens, but also first-year DC in the NFL at all. He was the defensive coordinator at Michigan last year for just the 1 year. So he switched Harbaugh's, but it's not looking so great this season. And then the offense, I mean, they moved the ball well against the Giants, but the red zone was particularly bad. They got down to the 5-yard line one time, threw 3 incomplete passes in a row, and then kicked a field goal. You have to run the ball. So Greg Roman, he is just so frustrating because he doesn't know what he's good at, and he doesn't seem to know what his team is good at, which is of course running the ball. They ran all over the Giants. Kenyon Drake had 116 yards or something.
Kenyon Drake was the best running back by DYAR this week, according to Football Outsiders, both by rushing alone and total DYAR.
Yeah, he was rolling, but Ravens get down to 5-yard. You know what? Let's throw it. Just throw it out of the back of the end zone 3 times. Greg Roman, I mean, it's come on, man. Just run the ball. I tweet this every week. From the blind side with Mrs. Toohey, run the dang ball. She's pointing to the side, and yet they don't do it.
No, they do not.
Yeah. So
the Ravens, to me, feel like almost a clone of another bird team in the NFL. They feel like a clone of the Eagles, but with a worse defense, because the Eagles also do this thing where they play really well in the first half and they put up a bunch of points, but then their offense completely stagnates in the second half. The offense doesn't do anything for several drives in a row in the second half. The only difference is that their defense is able to actually hold on to those leads. They can tackle.
Yeah, they consider tackling.
Maybe the Ravens should consider that.
Yeah.
On that topic, somebody put in the show notes, can the Eagles go undefeated? And I'm just going to go ahead and put a pin in that right now. No, they cannot, because you cannot go undefeated if you have long stretches in the second half of games where you don't score, where you don't even get a first down. Their first 2 drives of the second half against the Cowboys, they didn't get a first down. Their third drive, I think they got a first down, and they had to punt. You can't do that if you're a team that's capable of going undefeated. So no, they cannot go undefeated. They're going to be really good. They're going to be really good. At this point, they were my number 2 NFC team. They were the team that the other team I was considering putting in the Super Bowl, and I'm regretting not doing that. I think that they're the best team in the NFC, but they can't go undefeated.
Why can't they?
They're not.
I mean, they're not going to lose this week because they're on bye, so there's that. But the rest of their schedule,
every team goes undefeated on their bye week,
except for the Raiders.
With this Ravens defense, they might
even
not.
the Raiders go undefeated on their bye week.
Yeah.
Usually their coach gets fired.
Eagles have the Steelers, Texans,
that might be a win.
Commanders, Colts, Packers, Titans, Giants, Bears, Cowboys, Saints, Giants. I feel like the only good team on this list are the team I think should be good anyway is Green Bay, but that game's in Philly. So, they might
Why are you
lose
more
to the
concerned
Cowboys.
about Green? If you're concerned about Green Bay, why aren't you concerned about the team that beat Green Bay, the New York Giants?
Well, if I was about to mention them, but
I'd also
you
be
interrupted
concerned
me.
about
That's
the
fine.
Cowboys in Big D with Dak back. I would
Yeah, that's
consider that.
that's also worth it.
To me, I'm looking because I looked at their schedule because I kind of had this thought in mind where if the Eagles got this far, people would start talking about undefeated just because the schedule is so easy. But the only game on this schedule that they probably will be underdogs in is at Dallas on Christmas Eve. But that doesn't mean you're going to rip off 11 more wins in a row.
There's plenty of teams on that list who are capable of getting a win against them, and the odds that they beat all of them are
not great.
They're astronomically low.
I'm not saying the Eagles are gonna go undefeated, but I'm saying it's possible.
Well, it's possible
likely.
because they haven't lost a game yet,
happen.
but
It's possible, but not probable.
I would say it's only a nominal possibility. There's no real juice here. It's not like the 07 Patriots where after they beat the Cowboys in Week 5 and they were 5-0 and get your popcorn ready, everybody's like, okay, this team's gonna win all their games. We knew, even though they had a really hard schedule that year, we were just like, they're so much better than everybody else. They're not gonna lose to anybody until the Super Bowl.
So speaking of Dak Prescott likely being back for that game on Christmas, it's likely he's going to be back this week. It's certainly looking that way. And just in time as Cooper Rush suffered his first career loss as a starter against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Ewing Theory Committee closed their case on Dak.
Yeah, I'd say. I'd say it's like, okay, Dak's clearly better and he makes the team better. There's no question about that. But there was never really any question about that. We're just having fun. But yeah, Cooper Rush is a backup quarterback. The Eagles' defense is good. He was inevitably going to have a bad game when going up against a good defense. That's why he's a backup quarterback. Even if we think he's a pretty good one. Even if we think he could be a low-level starter for some of these other teams with really crappy quarterbacks, like the Broncos. But anyway, I'm excited that Dak's back, mainly for my other league fantasy team because I'm tired of starting Aaron Rodgers. Because I drafted Aaron Rodgers as my backup, and I was like, that's not bad for a backup. I don't know if he's going to be any good this year. And I've had to start him pretty much every week because Dak got hurt in week 1, and Dak didn't do anything in week 1 either because even before he got hurt, he was getting killed by the Bucs. So it was nice to see projected 26 points from my quarterback this week instead of the standard 18 from Rodgers.
26.
It's high-scoring quarterbacks.
Is it 6-point touchdowns?
I think it's 5. It's weird.
That's such a weird score. What are the passing yards?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's not. It's
not 1 for every 25.
I think it might be 1 for every 20. Yeah,
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. But
Evan,
hey,
you tired of starting Geno Smith?
No.
Why would you?
He's been great.
He's awesome.
He wasn't great this past week, not for fantasy.
He's been great overall, right?
So you're going to start him over Dak this week?
I think so.
Who do the Seahawks play?
The
even remember.
Seahawks play the Chargers.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
The Cowboys play the Lions, who give up the most points in the
yeah,
NFL.
yeah. That's why I'm excited to start Dak this week. I was like, yes, he's back
It's
for the Lions.
I don't know. I feel like the Cowboys are going to get a big lead on the Lions and then just call the dogs off. Whereas
If they get a big lead, then Dak's probably getting some points.
yeah, but they're going to be running the ball a bunch. Why would you throw it when you can just run it?
Well, I don't care if they've already thrown 4 touchdown passes and they started
Yeah,
running.
but what I'm
Lamar
trying
used to
to say is I think the Seattle Chargers game is going to be a track meet because the Chargers think they have a good defense when they don't, and we know Seattle's defense is awful.
But we also know that the Chargers don't always take advantage of good defenses. Or bad defenses. Anyway, the Giants, who we mentioned a second ago, and the Jets, both good. Maybe 5-1 for the Giants, 4-2 for the Jets. Do we think either of these teams can make the playoffs?
Sure.
Do we think both of these teams can make the playoffs?
I
Sure.
think the Giants.
Do we think they will make the playoffs?
Well, no, because I already
Probably.
eliminated the Jets.
And I already eliminated the Giants.
Yeah, you did that in week 1.
I did.
Did
Both
I
of you
eliminate
guys
the
have
Jets
eliminated the
already?
Jets. Both of you
Oh.
have. I've left them. I've left them out there for now.
I think the Jets are better than the Giants, but I think that the Giants play in the NFC, which is a weaker conference.
The Giants are also more cohesive, I feel like.
Maybe, and the Giants are also 5-1, so they've got the record advantage. I mean, like 5-1, it's a lot easier to navigate your way to 9 or 10 wins that you're going to need to get in. You know, I mean, they only have to win maybe 4 more games to be a legitimate wild card contender, whereas 4-2, you got to win 6 more, and again, tougher conference, better wild card teams in the mix. I'm figuring the Ravens and the Bengals are going to get it together at least a little bit. The Bengals have an easy stretch coming up. They should win 3 in a row and get to, I guess they would be, that makes 6-3. And I'm hoping the Ravens will follow suit because I'm tired of just reading the people on Twitter whining about the Ravens. Like, y'all need to relax, man. You're bugging me out, and I don't even root for your team. So, yeah, calm down.
Relax. They keep losing.
And maybe y'all just suck. Maybe you suck. Just accept that you guys might not be good. It's okay. Maybe your team's cheeks.
Okay. Well,
They look kind of pretty, a little cheeky to me. Just saying.
They do.
But anyway, yeah, Giants and Jets. I mean, the Giants feel like they're pulling rabbits out of their hat, though. Whereas the Jets feel like their wins have been more emphatic. Right, like they blew out the Dolphins. I know no quarterback really. Teddy got hurt during the game, but they still scored 40 points. Like their offense moved the ball. They crushed the Packers. Right, like the Giants had to have a miracle comeback against the Packers, whereas the Jets were just like, "Nah, we're just gonna whoop your ass." And you know, I think that's great. Like I'm more excited about what the Jets have as a team in terms of talent. I still think Brian Daboll is just being a wizard and figuring out a way to just be like, all right, we got one good player, and his name is Saquon Barkley, and the rest will just make up as we go. But it's working.
It is.
it's a shame that Joe Judge couldn't figure that out, right?
Joe Judge couldn't figure out how to find his ass with both hands.
I don't disagree, but I can't say that I agree.
Yeah, the other team in the NFC East, we'll mention the Washington Commanders only because Carson Wentz is hurt.
Happens.
And so it looks like it's going to be the Taylor Heineke show again.
Heineke Team 7.
Yes, sir.
It just won't go away.
This is a show it should have been. Carson Wentz sucks.
I've been saying that Heineke's better than Wentz.
I've been saying it too.
Even if you don't believe that Heineke is better than Wentz, the margins are so negligible because Wentz is such a bum that who cares who the quarterback is, and why would you give up multiple picks and pay this guy $28 million? Now, the $28 million I don't care about because he'll be gone after this year, and it's not my money. So it's not going to mess up the team's prospects or anything like that on the road because they didn't have any prospects anyway. And they probably won't for the rest of my life, and that's why I don't root for them anymore. So, sort of. I also don't root for them because they're run by horrible people. So there's that. But
Maybe for not too much longer.
I'm not holding out hope.
I
refuse to get invested in all these stories. Shout out Jim Irsay, who would have thought that
I
you
don't
of all
even-
people
yeah,
would have
like,
been
I don't
that
really
guy.
care for Jim Irsay, but
Nor should you. But
for him to say, I don't really care what dirt he has on me, like, we need to get rid of him. I
And
can
no-
respect
know
that.
all the dirt about Jim Irsay, right? Didn't he have?
Well, that's
the
true.
drug
We
thing?
do pretty much know all the dirt on him.
Jim Irsay is like, I'm already out there. I'm on TMZ. I'm on YouTube. Getting
maybe that-
perp walked.
Maybe that like reflects a little bit less well on him because he's basically just like, well, you can throw everybody else under the bus and I don't care.
There's no
But
honor among
nobody
thieves.
pulled a Fredo Corleone and said, no, that's not true. Danny and I are good friends. Like, nobody stuck up for Danny, which isn't really a surprise because he's Dan Snyder. Like, nobody likes the guy. And thing is, you can dislike people. Like, I'm sure certain owners don't like each other, but they see the value of having them among the 32. Nobody sees that with Dan Snyder. He's a malcontent. He's
been a net negative because all the stuff we keep hearing about Dan Snyder is always negative all the time. He keeps disrespecting the Shield, right? Like having Dan Snyder in the club seems like it's causing more problems than it is making money.
And he also has driven the value of one of the NFL's premier assets into the dirt. Right?
Yes.
Like the Washington football franchise was one of the 4 most valuable sports franchises in the world. Not football, sports. It was the Cowboys, the Yankees, and the Red Sox, and then the Washington football team. That was it. That's the list. And now it ain't that anymore.
Yep. The Bills,
They're winning the Super Bowl.
they are. And no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
That's right.
Nope.
I'm going to pull an Evan and be like, I don't know what y'all were seeing as I barely won. But, I'm glad I picked the Bills because it wasn't looking good for a little while there. I was like, Bills might not win the Super Bowl here. They're kind of blowing this game, and but they got together and Air Allen. That was awesome.
A big win for them against Kansas City because that, as long as they don't completely fudge it up going down the stretch, the road to the Super Bowl is going to go through Buffalo instead of through Arrowhead.
Yeah, and
that's a big difference.
Yeah, they need that, and the thing is, it also means that they get a bye. You get a little more time off, and frankly, as of right now, the only team that looks like they could actually beat the Bills in a big game is the Chiefs. And so if you make the path for the Chiefs to even get to you harder by making them play an extra game, by making them play 2 to get to the conference championship, you're definitely going to take that.
Cold and windy Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to make their path to you as hard as possible, and then if they do get to you, you're like, all right, well, game on. So happy for them. And the thing is, like, the Bills historically, not like big time history. We know they don't win anything historically. They get there, but they don't win.
4 times in a row.
But like over the last couple of years, they've had an issue winning close games. Like they've blown people out, and then they play these. There's a reason why they look like the best team ever, and they still only go 12-4 because they couldn't win close games, or 12-5 or whatever. But this year, beat the Ravens on the road. Ravens, we still think are good, even though they're frustrating and annoying, and that's a big win. Close game, won by 3. Beat the Chiefs by 4. Made the big play at the end instead of letting Patrick Mahomes go down the field in 1 minute and 4 seconds and win the game. They said, nah, you get one play, and then we're going to pick you off and call it a night. These are things that the Bills didn't do because they never really had to. They didn't have to make crunch time plays because they were up 47 points. But here it's like you're playing an actual good team that on a good day could give you fits. And I thought that the Chiefs played well. And I thought that the Bills didn't play their best. But the Bills still pulled it out. And I think that's the character-building type of win that you need to win the Super Bowl.
Sure, the Bills appreciate getting a bye week this week because they got to sort of enjoy that win. I mean, that was a big win for them, and they get a chance to kind of recover from that and refocus for the long second half of the season, I guess you would say.
It feels like a less opportunity for a letdown.
Right.
You come off this big win against the Chiefs, and then next week you play the Jets, who are frisky, and they can sneak up on you, and suddenly now you have no room for error again. You have to win the rest of your games, or at least win as many as the Chiefs do. And the Chiefs have a pretty easy schedule, so the Bills are going to have to win some games.
Yep. But as Tony Romo said on the broadcast, like this basically works like a 2-game advantage for the Bills because them getting pulled back into a tie with the Chiefs. Well, they have the head-to-head, so they get home field advantage in that situation. Some of these old quarterbacks just don't look good this season.
Yeah, either they don't or the teams they play for don't look good.
Or both.
Yeah, a combination of the two. Rodgers has looked particularly grody.
He's looked bad. Tom Brady had that one good game, and I kind of thought, okay, he's still Tom Brady, but maybe not. He might not be.
The Steelers game was bad.
That was an embarrassing loss for the Buccaneers. There was no excuse to lose that game.
Yeah, you can't lose that game.
You're favored by, what were they favored by?
8.5 points.
Yeah, 8.5 points.
Yeah, you can't lose that game.
No,
that was
absolutely not.
Shout out to Kevin Wildes for picking that as his upset alert of the week. He's 3-2 in his upset picks so far this year. But I went back and looked at our lines because the money line number is there as well. 3-2, but if you had bet that, you'd be up 6.3 units.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, because big payouts.
Yeah.
So, and one of the games that he picked the Patriots to beat the Packers in an upset, and that game went to overtime. So he almost won that one too.
Yeah.
The only one that he was way off was he picked the Titans to beat the Bills, and they lost by 40.
Oh,
So that was a miss.
Whoops.
It's okay though. Kevin just didn't seem to understand that the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, and now he does. So,
yeah. And with the exception of this week when he was ranked the best quarterback by DYAR, Matt Ryan hasn't looked good this year.
No,
he's been terrible.
But we kind of saw that coming a little bit because
he's looked bad for the past few years.
Yeah, he's been solidly in decline. Like he won the MVP in 2016. He had a good year in 2017, but not to the same heights. And then since then, it's been a steady decline to mediocrity at best. And so far, before this week, it was worse than that. It was Russell Wilson territory, which except not as annoying.
Yes. All right. So this past week, we all did terrible with our picks. Eric won the host contest with only 6 wins.
Sad.
Evan and I had 5 wins. Evan at least had a lone wolf pick, so he's going to get to eliminate a team second when we do our eliminate a team from the playoffs in just a moment. Eric will get to go first. Congratulations to James Daly. He had 9 points this week. Blew us out of the water. He's actually moved up into a tie with Eric for second place in our overall contest with 46 points on the season. Kyle German, Sean Kennedy, and Andrew Perez all beat the 3 of us for the week as well. So shout out to all of those guys. Lone Wolf picks that were successful for our show. Eric was alone picking the Bills to beat that 3-point spread versus Kansas City. And Evan was alone picking the Steelers to cover the 8.5-point spread against Tampa Bay.
Won it straight up.
I don't know what we were seeing.
No idea.
The Steelers look terrible.
Best and worst of Week 6. I already mentioned Matt Ryan was the best quarterback by DYR. Kyler Murray was the worst. And it's only going to get worse because there's a new Call of Duty being dropped this week.
Next week.
Or next
On
week.
the 28th.
Yeah. Apparently he reached out to Robbie Anderson after that trade to see what his KD ratio is. I'm pretty sure that was a joke, but still. Kenyon Drake, we mentioned, was the best running back by both total and rushing only for DYAR. Ramondre Stevenson had a good game fantasy-wise, but he was the worst by DYAR.
Yeah, I was going to say it didn't stop him from killing me this week. Jeez.
The best wide receiver of the week was Chase Claypool, who was on Anthony Battle's bench in our fantasy league. The worst was Romeo Dobbs.
He's also laid out after taking a celebratory dip. Somebody failed to inform him, hey, buddy, you've never done this before. This is going to suck.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and eliminate a team from the playoffs. Eric, you have so far eliminated 3 NFC teams, the Seattle Seahawks, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Chicago Bears, and then 3 AFC teams, the New York Jets, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Las Vegas Raiders. Who are you eliminating this week?
Yes. You said Las Vegas Ravers.
That could be a band name. Oh man, like, I'm not used to this whole picking first thing. I'm not used to winning. Let's see. The problem is I've got some teams that are easy picks, but I don't want to waste them when I have the first pick. I don't know, stash them for another time. But then I might get out over my skis and eliminate somebody I shouldn't, and that's the name of the game.
That sure is. So
I'm already
let's
looking
go.
I'm looking at this glaring Jets thing in there already, which is just gonna chap my ass when they make the playoffs. But anyway, so I'm gonna do something a little wild and crazy, but it's not that wild and crazy. I'm going to eliminate the Denver Broncos.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Kick them out. Get them out of my face. They suck. They're garbage.
The garbage. Garbage. Moth garbage.
Thank you.
Yeah, the Broncos look bad. Their quarterback is bad. their running backs who are healthy are bad, except for maybe Mike Boone. He might be okay.
Melvin
But-
Gordon looked so sad on the sidelines. And they kept cutting to him. I was like, this is mean, guys. Leave him alone.
Well, he sucks. So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I wasn't expecting it, but I don't hate it. So 2 AFC West teams gone for Eric. Evan, you have eliminated the Houston Texans, the New York Jets, the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Washington Commanders, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who are you getting rid of this week?
Eric, I thought sure you were going to pick the Detroit Lions, but you didn't, so I will pick the Lions. 1-4, I think is what I just saw. 1-4, they can't play any defense. Like, they're in last place in their division. They're behind the Bears, who are awful. So, sorry, Detroit. You know, I mean, honestly, good for them for waiting until, I guess, last week to get eliminated by any of us instead of immediately before any games were played like the previous 2 seasons. So, yeah, good for them. But they're not going to the playoffs, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of wishing that I hadn't eliminated the Detroit Lions last week because I should have eliminated the Bears, and now I feel like I can't really eliminate the Bears because I have too many NFC teams already that I've eliminated. I'm going to go
Eliminated only NFC teams except
no,
Houston.
Yeah, except for Houston, yeah. So I've eliminated the Giants. That one's going to chat my ass. The Panthers, the Falcons, the Commanders, the Lions, and the Texans. I am going to go ahead and eliminate another AFC team this week, and it is going to be the Las Vegas Ravers.
Mm-hmm. The Raiders.
Yeah. So they're gone. I don't see any reason to believe that they're going to get into the playoff race. And this saves some other teams in the NFC who I'm pretty sure I'm going to be eliminating, but I've eliminated too many of them. I need to eliminate an AFC team just to try and start balancing it out a little bit.
Yeah, I would have picked the Raiders if Eric had picked the Lions.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our game picks. We are rushing through today's show. We might actually be done 2 hours earlier than we usually do because we started an hour early, and we might be an hour shorter than usual, but we'll see how that goes because we can talk for a long time on some of these games. Let's jump into it. We will start with the Saints and the Cardinals. This is the Thursday night football game tomorrow. The Cardinals are favored by 2.5 points. What are we thinking on this one? Evan, why don't you go first?
I took the Cardinals because just Thursday night teams on the road, like that's a really bad draw. Honestly, like if your Thursday night game is on the road, that's probably a loss. So you know, if a team's gonna win, they'll probably win by 3 or so. So give me the Cardinals at home on the short week.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Cardinals too. DeAndre Hopkins is back. I think that makes a big difference. That's at least one great receiver that the Saints will have to cover. Robbie Anderson, I think I don't know if he's better.
There, but he's gonna. I mean, it's gonna take some time to get him into the swing of things, probably. And
yeah, either way, DeAndre Hopkins is probably enough. Or he's getting a phone
getting
call.
A phone call from.
But yeah,
Good Lord.
2.5 points for a home team. I haven't seen anything from the Saints to indicate that they're a good football team. So I would have to believe that if I'm going to take them as only a 2.5 point underdog on the road. And I think that they and the Cardinals are similarly bad. So I would have needed the full 3, and I'm not getting it. So I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Okay. As much as I would love to believe that DeAndre Hopkins being back and that Andy Dalton probably not being active for this game because he's hurt would help the Cardinals win this game, I think the wrong team is favored here. I think the Saints are the better team right now, and I think that Taysom Hill potentially starting this game against a shoddy Cardinals defense, I don't think they're going to know how to defend him. I don't think they're going to have any answer for him. Taysom Hill is useless against 80-85% of NFL defenses, but there are some defenses that just are not equipped to stop him. I don't think, and the Cardinals are one of them. I'm taking the Saints here.
Is Taysom Hill going to start at quarterback for the Saints?
He's
Who
useless
else
as a
would start?
quarterback, yeah. I've heard that he might, but he's not a quarterback on the depth chart. He's a tight end, and
So
I'm not sure that Dennis Allen's all that keen on starting him. But
Well,
who else?
They're going to use him a lot more. If nothing
Absolutely,
else.
he's definitely. They're going to see the gadget plays come out. Also, give the Saints some credit. Alvin Kamara's come on pretty nicely the last couple of weeks. He was a little bit banged up the first 4 weeks or so. Hasn't found his way into the end zone, which is unusual because he's normally a touchdown machine. But the yardage is there, and so the Saints' run game is really picked up since he's gotten healthy. And so I don't know.
what happened to Jameis?
He broke like a bunch of vertebrae in his back or something.
Oh, okay.
Like he tried
I thought
to
he
play
was going to play.
But he tried to play through it, and he was really, really bad. So they said enough of this, and they told him go heal up, and we'll see
The
you
guy
in a
with
few
the broken
weeks."
back
Yeah,
wasn't very good in the NFL.
yeah. The guy with the broken back struggled to play quarterback against professional football players. Who would have thought?
Okay.
Browns at Ravens is the first game we're going to talk about for Sunday at 1 o'clock. Evan, your Ravens are favored by 6.5. What you got here?
This is just absurd. Who makes these lines? Do they watch football? Have they seen the Ravens play at all this season? Okay? I mean, you can take this one all the way to the bank and back. Browns plus the 6.5. I mean, oh my God.
Okay. I'm taking the Ravens. The Browns are terrible.
Have you seen the Ravens play?
The Ravens are not terrible.
Yeah, but ask Harbaugh about his team's execution this season.
Yeah,
Right.
he would be in favor of
Be in
it.
favor of it.
We know the joke.
They can't do
He
anything.
made the joke
Yeah, right.
several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Browns have looked so bad this season, and I get it that the Ravens have blown a lot of leads, but they have not blown leads in all 6 of their games. They've blown leads in half of them, and I don't think that this is going to be one of the half of the games that they blow that lead in. So
Well, they blew the lead against the Bengals, but then came back to win.
yeah,
Didn't cover though.
no, they did not. Eric, who you got?
This is tough because
Is it?
it is tough because the Browns are horrible. Like the Browns are absolute trash. And
They were the team I was going to eliminate this week if I had
Really?
picked or I was thinking about them if Evan had taken the Raiders. Like they were my next team.
the Browns are so bad. Like I crushed Kevin Stefanski among other coaches last week. He probably didn't get most of it because throwing at Brandon Staley and Nat Hackett PI and
There's so many other coaches that deserve
yeah,
it.
Zach Taylor,
Kingsbury.
but yeah, Cliff Kingsbury, your
Matt
boy.
Rule.
And, well, Matt Rule's he's already
Mercifully
toast.
gone.
Yeah. But yeah, like Kevin Stefanski, I put him in this group too. Like I don't think he's good at all. But yeah, the Browns have been awful. They got rolled by the Patriots, which I realize the Patriots are better than we thought, but that shouldn't happen. Not like that, especially at home. I mean, they suck, dude. They lost to the Falcons, but the Ravens love to blow games, so it's like I would have been inclined to take the Browns if I had gotten the full 7. I'm not getting the full 7. Give me Baltimore. I hate it. I hate it so much, but I'm going to do it. Take the Ravens.
And half a point can make all the difference
It's a
sometimes.
huge difference.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 11-point road favorites at the Panthers.
What did we just see?
This one I feel is pretty absurd considering what we just saw from the Buccaneers against the Steelers, who I would argue might be worse than the Panthers. Like, Christian McCaffrey has been good. He can score for your team. The Panthers are at home and they're catching 11? Like, this is... I see this as easy money. I'm taking the Panthers.
I picked Tampa Bay because the Panthers, I mean, as great as Christian McCaffrey is, they can't score. They couldn't score on the Rams, who suck.
The Bucks can barely score.
Well, I mean, neither can the Panthers.
Okay.
Who's the Panthers quarterback this week?
So it'll be like 10-0,
Is
and
it
I'll
me?
win.
Right, like, the thing is, the Panthers can't score, but they don't have to because they've already got 11 points.
Or it'll be 17-7, and I'll win.
Yeah, I got the Bucks here. I feel like Tom Brady's gonna chew some people out, and they might get it together against a really terrible Panthers team.
He chewed out his offensive line last week. They didn't get it together.
Well, they got a whole week to figure out something else against, again, the Panthers, who are
I
terrible.
don't think they like each other. I don't think they like Tom Brady. I don't think Tom Brady likes them.
I'm not going to speculate on all of that, but I will say last week I felt really, 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 really good about picking the Panthers plus 11 against the Rams.
So did I.
And they didn't get done. Like, they found a way to not cover that line against that team, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. What do you...
That one was in LA, though, wasn't it?
I don't
So
know. I still feel like the Bucks are better than the Rams, though. This line sucks. I hate this because you're making me pick the Panthers, even if I'm getting points. I don't wanna. But the Bucks also let me down last week.
everybody lets you down.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of teams letting us down these last couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
Do we even know who the quarterback is for the Panthers? Is it
Pretty
gonna
sure
be...
it's going to be
still don't
Darnold.
know.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be Darnold.
Sam Darnold's going to throw a pick six. Give me the Bucks.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All right, Falcons at Bengals. The Bengals 6-point favorites at home against Atlanta. I struggle slightly with this one only because it feels like the Bengals have been really inconsistent, but really they've just been kind of consistently meh until this past week. So the question is, did they truly turn a corner? Because Burrow looked really good this past week, and so did Jamar Chase, and their defense looked pretty solid. And the Falcons are so bad, and Marcus Mariota is so bad. I think he was usurped this week for the most off-target passes, or the highest off-target pass rate in the NFL by Justin Fields, but he's still been bad. They're at home. They looked good this past week. I'm gonna lay my chips down on them and go with the Bengals. Eric.
Go ahead, Eric.
I'm going to take the Bengals, too. I feel like the Falcons, there might be a little bit of extra hype for them because of what they did against the 49ers, and they've been frisky this year. The Bengals have looked better. I mean, they started off 0-2. They're, 3-3 now? They lost a doozy to the Ravens. That's okay. They're beating the teams they should beat. We went against them last week, picking the Saints. Didn't work out.
No, it did not.
And the thing is, I feel like I keep calling them the Bucks. The Bengals, I feel like they struggle when they're facing a defense that can actually, get stops like the Steelers could when they had T.J. Watt, like the Cowboys can with Micah Parsons because he's great. And then the Ravens game was a divisional game and things happen. But then they've played pretty well against less stellar defenses, and I'd say less stellar definitely describes the Falcons' defense. So I'll lay the 6 points and take the Bengals.
I'm going to add that the Panthers are 1-5 against the spread this season, which is worse than NFL and not tied with anybody. The best team against the spread
Falcons
is the Atlanta Falcons, who are 6-0, and I think I've picked against them all 6 times, to be honest. So I have finally learned my lesson. I'm picking the Falcons. I don't know what it is what makes them better than people think. I don't think the Falcons are any good either. But I got them on here. So Give me the Falcons in the 6.
See, here's the problem. When you have a team that keeps winning against the spread, people like you catch on to that, and they end up pushing the spread back closer to where maybe they won't win a game against the spread.
What?
You just got to pick against the number and not worry about it, I would say.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Lions at Cowboys. Lions are catching 7 on the road. Cowboys are a touchdown favorite.
Dak's back.
Dak is back. Amon-Ra St. Brown is back, and apparently really likes the adjustments that the Lions have made on offense. Still don't know if DeAndre Swift is going to be back. TJ Hawkinson is back.
What's Amon-Ra St. Brown going to say? Coming off the bye week. I don't know about these adjustments. They kind of suck. We're going to be terrible and get shut out again.
He could have just not said
Dan
anything.
Campbell's an idiot and needs to eat more kneecaps. Right? What's he going?
He could have just not said anything.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You don't have to say anything.
Like DJ Moore when he was talking about when he was asked to respond to rules saying the receivers need to get open. That's why they can't complete any passes.
That was such a good clip. Oh my God. He was being so classy about it without just saying, what the hell are you talking about? Baker sucks. Like, that's clearly the point of what he was saying, but he couldn't actually say that part out loud. Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm taking the Cowboys, and I'm laying the points. The Cowboys defense is legit. Micah Parsons might be the best defensive player in the league. He's amazing. Jared Goff does not perform well when anything goes wrong, and Micah Parsons makes sure things go wrong all the time. So I don't think their offense is going to perform well. I think Goff's going to make mistakes. We know their defense sucks. We know Dak is better than Cooper Rush. I think Dak's going to come out and have a big game, and this is going to be a blowout.
Evan, who you got?
I totally agree by all the reasons that Eric just said. I think Dallas rolls the Lions. I feel like Jared Goff turns into a pumpkin when the lights are on bright. And the Cowboys always have bright lights on them.
It's a 1 o'clock game.
It's still the Dallas game in Jerry World. I think Dallas rolls.
We are once again not going to have a clean sweep. We have not had a clean sweep on any of these games so far. I'm taking the Lions for my second Lone Wolf pick, or my third Lone Wolf pick, actually. I think the Lions are going to get back to scoring. I don't know if they're going to win this game, but they're catching 7 points. I'm taking the points for sure on this one. Like, 7 points is a lot. Until the game against the Patriots, I don't think they had lost a game by that many. So I don't see any reason to think that the bye week is not going to have served them well to at least put up some points this week.
They lost to the Vikings by 7.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay,
They
well,
ended
that'd
up
be a
being a
push.
7-point game.
So,
Did they play the
well,
Bears?
it'd be a push based on this. What
Have
was
the
that?
Lions played the Bears this year?
I don't think they have yet.
Okay. Can't wait for that.
I feel like that game will be on a Thursday night.
They might actually blow a team out with that one. Giants at Jaguars. The Jaguars are 3-point favorites at home, which basically would imply that they're just as good as each other, which, if you only look at their rosters, I might tend to agree with. But the Giants have been playing much more consistently, much more cohesively. The Jaguars have been very inconsistent. I'm taking the Giants on this one.
This one, I feel like the wrong team is favored. I feel like the Giants have been, like you said, Corey, playing better football. The Jags, they have moments, right? Trevor Lawrence has his moments, but it's not. They don't seem. I'm trying not to say all the words you just said, but anyway, Giants in the points.
I do like what the Jaguars have been doing with the running game, and they're getting Travis Etienne more involved. And Etienne has been playing really well these last 2 games. He's averaging over 7 yards per carry and more than 10 yards per reception over these last 2 games. If anything, they probably would need to get him the ball a little bit more even than they have been. But that hasn't been enough to keep them from stalling out on a lot of their drives. And the Giants seem like a team that's, playing well enough to take advantage of that somehow. I still don't understand how. Eric, who you got?
I gotta take the Giants too. Like Trevor Lawrence, ever since I said he's him, he hasn't been him, and that's been very disappointing to me. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with the hot team, I guess, that just keeps winning games. And if I'm catching points, that's all the better.
There you go. Colts at Titans. Haven't the Colts already played the Titans once? And they've played the Jaguars twice?
They already played the Jags twice, yeah.
Have they played? They played the Texans once, didn't they?
Yeah, they
too?
tied in week 1.
So have they played 5? Are they going to have played 5 of their AFC South games in the first 7 weeks of the season? That can't be right. This will at least be their 4th, which is crazy. Like, what is going on here? The Titans are 2.5-point favorites at home. This one's a really tough one. I think that if I was catching a full 3 points, I might consider taking the Colts, especially because it seems like Jonathan Taylor is getting closer to being healthy, and he may be back. But I don't trust Matt Ryan to back up a good game with another good game. He's not. I don't think he's good enough to consistently string together strong outings. The Titans are coming off of a bye week. And I think Mike Vrabel is a good coach, and good coaches tend to come out of bye weeks with a good game plan, and all the better when you're playing against a team that you're familiar with. Again, if it was 3 points, I think I'd have a harder time, but at 2.5, I'm going to take the Titans.
I've got the Titans in a slam dunk in my mind. The Colts stink. They're terrible. They can't do anything. I've refused to acknowledge. Didn't they just beat Jacksonville this past week or something? Well, I didn't see that game, so it doesn't exist. Yeah. So give me the Titans. Titans roll. The Titans have toughness and grit, and the Colts are just a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, in this snail's race that is the AFC South, I think that the Titans have inched ahead, and I think they're clearly, in my opinion, the best team in this division, which, again, not saying a whole lot, but certainly better than the Colts.
It's maybe saying a little bit more than it did last year. I think this division is better than it was last year. Not by a lot.
The Titans were the number 1 seed last year.
That was a fraudulent 1 seed.
It probably was, but they were still they had a really good
But the point is, like, if we're talking
Bills.
about top to bottom, like, I think the worst team is in that division is better than it was last year. I think the second worst team is better than the second worst team was last year.
Well, the Texans and the Jaguars are definitely better than they were last year, and they were both putrid. And the Colts were mediocre, and the Titans, I think, were legitimately pretty good. Like, they actually blew out some really good teams. Whereas this year, I don't think they're capable of doing that. In fact, we already saw them get blown out by the Bills, whereas they beat the Bills last year. They blew out the Rams, blew out the Chiefs, that type of thing.
I think the Titans are mostly just missing A.J. Brown, to be quite honest.
Oh, yeah.
They sent him away.
Yeah, they did, which was foolish.
Well, they traded
who
for...
Who are you taking in this one?
The Titans.
Okay.
I don't think that's hard.
All right. The last 1 o'clock game to talk about, the Packers are road favorites at the Commanders, 5.5 points. I would say I don't think that that's enough, but the Packers are so bad. They're so bad.
Make a lot of money fading the Packers this year. Like, that's one of the few things. I'm not winning a whole lot of these games, but the Packers picks, I've been on it by not picking them.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Heineke's going to likely start this week. The Packers defense will not have a whole lot to go on in game planning for him, and Heineke can be pretty frisky. I'm going to go with the Commanders. Evan, who you got?
I'm not picking Washington to win nothing. Green Bay. This is going to be another home game for Green Bay anyway, because, Packers fans are all over the place.
No, it did not help them against the Jets.
Oh, that's true. Well, maybe the Jets are actually good. We know the Commanders are not that.
It's fair. Eric?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, the commies are really bad, but
We notice.
I think the Packers legitimately might not make the playoffs. Like that team is absolutely not a good football team by any stretch. The Vikings are going to win that division purely by the fact that nobody else in that division is any good.
The Lions could still come back and win that division.
Doubtful. But I might give them a better shot than the Packers at this point because the Packers have been so ugly and bad. But 5.5 seems manageable. At the same time, I actually feel better about Heineke starting than I would Wentz because,
Exactly.
Because Wentz, I'll give Wentz some credit. He has the ability to make some wow plays. He just does it like once every 5 weeks. And in between them, he makes a lot.
And
every 5 minutes,
he makes a lot of other wow plays, but they're like, wow, that was ugly.
Yeah, like you could still put together a good mixtape of him over the course of a season and be like, if you only watch the same 4 plays over and over again, he looks really, really good. But the problem is he plays 400 plays at least a season, more than that if he stays healthy, which he never does.
Well, Heineke is actually kind of fun to watch.
He's a gamer, he's a coach on the field, all the white people tropes, that type of thing. That's what he is. Like,
he's a gym rat.
Yeah, he's not going to be the guy that makes the mistake, and I think that's enough for me to take the points. So yeah, I'm going to roll with the commies because fading the Packers has been lucrative to say the least.
4:05 p.m. on CBS, Jets at Broncos. The Broncos are favored by 1 point. So this basically becomes, who do you think is going to win? It's not quite that, but it's close. I'm taking the Jets.
Yeah.
Like, are we really discussing this?
Yeah.
No. Jets roll.
Come on.
I can't believe that the Broncos are favored.
I can't either.
The Jets should be at least laying 2.5. Like that's crazy.
It also surprises me that Football Outsiders has Denver favored by 2.
To be fair, Denver's defense has been legitimately very good this year.
It has been, but the Jets' defense has also been
I agree.
good this year.
I picked the Jets for a reason because the Jets overall have been better and deserve to be favored.
The Raiders are favored by 7 at home against the Texans. Houston is coming off of a bye week.
Yeah, I felt like we haven't seen them at all.
I don't think that really matters. But I also don't really like the Raiders. Like I just eliminated the Raiders, and Eric eliminated the Raiders last week. Neither of us think very highly of them, and we have also eliminated the Texans. But 7 points is like a touchdown is a good bit to catch. Like if you want to take those points,
I haven't eliminated the Texans.
You haven't?
Oh, you haven't eliminated the
No,
Texans.
I have not.
Oh, okay.
Why not?
Because they play in the worst division ever. You never know. Things get
They're
weird.
the worst team in the worst division.
Yeah, and guess what? They all suck, so things happen. I'm just saying.
Evan, who you got?
I'm stashing.
I have the Texans plus the 7. I feel like the Raiders never blow anybody out. Feel like the Raiders play down to their competition. The Raiders are definitely the better team, but they seem to have more. The whole is less than the sum of the parts. Devontae Adams and Derek Carr are supposed to have this. So they said electric combination from Fresno State and stuff, and we haven't seen that. Darren Waller's status is up in the air again.
Despite him, the Raiders are also coming off a bye week. Like you would think that might have been enough for him to get healthy, but maybe not.
I don't know.
Where you at, bro?
Yeah, he's always questionable.
Dying over here.
He disappeared. He didn't even show up for the game 2 weeks ago. Like what happened there?
Yeah, I don't know. So give me the Texans. Getting points against the Raiders who can't play defense. I mean,
yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. Eric, who you got?
Yeah, I'll take the Texans and the points. I don't know if there's any magical Lovie Smith after a bye stats like we have for Andy Reid, but he's an experienced coach. I think he's a decent coach. He took a job to get fired here because the Texans are going to do that to him just like they did to David Culley, except for Lovie Smith actually has a resume. But I like him better certainly than Josh McDaniels, who I think is, again, he's among the coaches on the list that I talked about last week. He sucks.
Like there's 25 coaches on that list.
I've only got like 8. Like I'm not even including like the really bad, ineffective ones. I'm talking about the ones that disrespect their position, and Josh McDaniels is absolutely one of those guys. So, yeah, give me the Texans in the 7.
Well, I guess I'm going to get a 4th opportunity for lone wolf points because I'm taking the Raiders.
What?
They.
Corey, you're either going to storm back or you're going to be way behind.
Yeah, I know. This is going to be rough. Or I could just go even on those. And
that's true.
That could happen too.
That's possible.
I'm diversifying my portfolio here.
I guess.
But like, there's a reason that most people pick the certain stocks is because those are the good ones.
I mean, but when both
diversify
stocks
too
suck,
much, garbage.
Both stocks suck here. Josh Jacobs had 2 really good games in a row, so I think I can trust their running game to be decent. If Darren Waller plays, I think that certainly helps, but Devontae Adams has also been good, and Hunter Renfrow, and they seem to have found something pretty interesting with Mac Hollins. And I trust the Raiders defense more than I trust the Texans defense. I don't like either of them, to be fair, but I would rather trust the Raiders defense to slow down Dameon Pierce than the Texans defense to slow down Josh Jacobs. Now, 7 points is a lot. That certainly makes me a little bit nervous, but
you need 8.
Yeah, so I need 8, but I'm gonna go with it. Okay. Seahawks at Chargers, 425 game. There are actually 2 games at 425. The Chargers are 6-point home favorites, and I don't really trust them to blow teams out. And the Seahawks have been frisky. The Seahawks had a pretty rough game this past week, but I like what they found with Kenneth Walker. He's playing really well. Noah Fant seems to be getting a little bit more involved in the offense. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett were both kind of down this week, but I don't think that's going to stay the case. I think that Geno Smith's going to have a bounce-back performance, and I think that's going to keep this game close. And we know that the Chargers don't have, a lot of home fans, so this is going to work out almost like a home game for the Seahawks. I'm going to go ahead and take the Seahawks and the points.
I got the Seahawks and the points as well. I don't trust the Chargers to win big, even though they probably should. The Seahawks run the ball and run the ball and run the ball some more, and the Chargers' run defense is really, really awful. So, I mean, not only I think the Seahawks cover, but they might win. Like, I feel like this is a bad matchup for the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers are renowned underachievers. I
I picked them to win the division.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. Hence, underachieving. I realize they're technically they're tied for the division lead with the Chiefs, but the Chiefs have the tiebreaker because Brandon Staley decided to blow that game too. I swear, we talk about the New England Patriots of the Tom Brady years, how they would always win the AFC East because there were no good quarterbacks in that division to challenge him. Well, that's like the Chiefs except with coaches. Like Andy Reid is probably one of the 2 or 3 best coaches in all of football. You could actually argue he's the best one right now. And then the rest of the division all has like a bottom 7 coach. Nat Hackett, P.I., Brandon Staley, and Josh McDaniels. Those are the guys. And they all just give away games to Kansas City and everybody else that they suck. Pete Carroll looks like a peach compared to Brandon Staley. I'm taking the points.
The other 425 game is the Chiefs at the 49ers. The Chiefs are 3-point road favorites, which would imply that if they were at home, they'd be, 9-point favorites? Is that right?
I wasn't paying attention. Would say it again.
Well, the Chiefs are 3-point favorites on the road, so they'd be 9-point favorites at home, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
Jimmy Garoppolo has been playing pretty well in that offense.
He has.
Deebo Samuel is good.
Yeah, that was a question. Yes.
Yeah, he's been playing pretty well.
He scored like 14 points against the Falcons.
How'd they only score 14 against the Falcons? Somebody explain that to me, please. They should have beat the Falcons by 50.
Maybe.
They lost by 14.
Part of that was also Jeff Wilson did absolutely nothing. Evan knows all about that.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I only had him on all 3 of my fantasy teams, and all 3 of them got toasted.
Yeah.
Thanks
But
to
Deebo Samuel and
Jeff
Brandon
Wilson.
Ayuk are both playing really well. The 49ers defense is good, but so is the Chiefs offense. I think the question here really boils down to how will the Chiefs bounce back from that game against Buffalo? Are they going to bounce back with a fire that causes them to be able to like blow a team like the 49ers out? Or are they going to be so worn down from that dogfight that they're going to come out a little bit flat and there be a risk of them losing or at least not winning by more than 3 points? I'm going to go with the former because I feel like these Chiefs teams are always kind of ready to go, and they can always come back from whatever happens, whether it's a tough win or a tough loss. Andy Reid knows how to coach these guys up. Patrick Mahomes is good. Travis Kelce is good. I'm going to take the Chiefs. Eric, who you got?
I mean, the Chiefs are obviously the better team. The 49ers are coming off of a really, what would hope to be a humbling loss, because that's people were starting to gas them up quite a bit. I feel like the Chiefs do have some weaknesses on the offensive line. They give up a lot of pressures, and the 49ers do get after the quarterback pretty well.
They do.
And I feel like the Chiefs' defense isn't particularly good. Well, they had a pretty good showing against the Bills this week. Although some of that was self-induced with the stupid pitch fumble thing that happened on like the first drive, which I'm just like, can y'all just not be that way? This feels like, does Jimmy Garoppolo lose the game for the 49ers or not? I'm going to lean, so I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Evan?
I got Kansas City as well. We know Jimmy G sucks. And I think the Niners got exposed. I don't understand how they lost by 14 to the Falcons.
It looked like Mariota was having a field day running the ball. Like, he was just able to do whatever he wanted. And maybe I would normally say, okay, maybe they weren't prepared for that, but why wouldn't you be prepared for that, right? Like,
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
Sunday Night Football, the return of Tua Tagovailoa. The Steelers are 7-point underdogs on the road in Miami. Steelers, of course, coming off of not just covering the 8.5-point spread that they were underdogs by to Tampa Bay, but actually beating Tampa Bay in that game. Can they do it again? Well, they don't really have to win this game. They just have to lose by less than 7 points if you want to take the points. This is kind of a tough one for me because I just don't know what to expect from the Dolphins this week with Tua coming back from the concussions. And there's some question about Jalen Waddle's health. It sounds like he's finally over the groin injury, but now he's dealing with a shoulder injury. The running game in Miami is kind of weird. Meanwhile, the Steelers just seem to have a fire this past week that you can't really account for on a stat sheet. But can they keep that up? Because this is still, I think, a bad team overall. 7 points that's tough. Eric, who are you leaning?
I had to go with me first. I'm just kidding.
Yes, I'm going with you.
You said all that stuff and didn't make a pick?
Yeah, he does.
I'm trying to mix it up here.
That's a big filibuster there. Corey's going to bring it back around. I'm going to roll with Miami. I'm going to go with the Dolphins here. I know it's a little steep, and I was thinking about should Tua even be playing in this football game, all things considered. Probably not, but
Probably not.
He is, and he legitimately makes them better, which a lot of people would have questioned that before. You wrote in Miami because I said Miami, but we've been doing with the So that's kind of my fault, but I just figured I'd let you know.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, but exactly. Like we used to do that for when we picked the team. One of us would be WFC, one of us would be the team. That's usually me. And then one of us would be Washington. But anyway, I feel like the Steelers' win last week was, I think it said more about the Bucs and their seeming lack of chemistry and focus right now. Whereas I think the Dolphins will be galvanized to have Tua back. I think that with him, they are legitimately a pretty good team.
Yep.
They're at home. The Steelers are coming off of a rah-rah type of win against Tom Brady, who, while he doesn't play for an AFC rival anymore, they still hate him for years of torment. Whereas the Dolphins don't quite have the same vibe. I think that the Dolphins get this done.
All right, Evan.
I picked the Steelers going back to that honestly, this might be a foolish pick. Like, the Dolphins are so much better than the Steelers, but so were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so we thought. Right? So.
Or true.
Yeah. I mean.
I'm in this weird space where
the
I'm
Steelers hang around.
I think the Dolphins right now, especially with Tua, are better than the Buccaneers are right now. So, on one hand, you're like, okay, well, why were the Buccaneers, 8.5-point favorites while the Dolphins were only 7-point favorites? But then again, that's probably influenced by the fact that the Steelers beat a team that they were 8.5-point underdogs to. But yeah, I mean, everything that Eric just said, I mean, Tua makes this team better. We saw what they looked like with Teddy Bridgewater. And I love Teddy Bridgewater, but they looked lethargic with him at quarterback. Jalen Waddle was uninvolved. Like, they could only get the ball to Tyreek Hill, and one player can only do so much for your team. And then I didn't even bother to learn the name of the other backup who has played the last couple of weeks, Skylar something, because he wasn't good at all.
I think it's Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
He has his own website, and he sells merch.
Well, good for him.
Does he sell his own merch?
Yeah, it's his merch, right? It's merch of himself.
Like jerseys?
I mean, I looked at it last week and the website was
self-portraits.
down.
Anyway,
OfficialSkylarThompson.com.
We don't need to plug some nobody's website on this show.
Maybe it's pictures of him in cotton panties all over the world.
Okay, now we really don't need to be talking about this anymore. What on
Would you
earth are you
please
talking
explain?
about?
That's a South Park reference.
Oh, well, I mean,
don't remember
Skylar
that.
Thompson's website,
We'll talk about it after the show.
the proceeds go to cancer research. So.
Oh, well, you
well,
should have led
okay.
with that.
Yes, I lead with
otherwise-
that. Now I feel bad for poo-pooing.
I
on
compared
it.
him to a fictional serial killer.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
The guy with the collected, right
Yeah,
hands
he
or
cut off
whatever.
the hands. Yeah, and yes.
Oh, my God.
Thanks, Evan. Now I feel better.
Oh.
I'm taking the Dolphins. Let's move on to another game. Monday Night Football. Patriots are 8-point home favorites against the Bears. Woof. I'm going to take the Patriots. It sounds like Mac Jones could be back this week.
Does that make them
I
better?
don't know if it makes them better. I don't know if it necessarily makes them worse. Bailey Zappi's done a pretty good job.
I would love to see Bailey Zappi, Tom Brady, Mac Jones. That would be something else.
That would be.
If Bill Belichick's like, yeah, he's ready, but we're sticking with Zappi.
I think Mac Jones gets Wally pipped.
I think they've already said that Mac Jones is starting when he's healthy. So if he's healthy this week, he's starting.
People say a lot of
either
things.
way, the Patriots defense has been playing well lately, and the Bears offense is terrible. So the Patriots defense is going to eat them up and spit them out. I know that I botched that phrase.
I wasn't going to say it. I was going to give you a pass.
Them up and spit them
I'm sure Evan was eyeballing you over the side.
I wasn't paying attention. So.
So Corey, you
daydreaming.
could have gotten away with that one.
Ramondre Stevenson, the main reason that he did poorly as far as DYAR was because he got stuffed a few times on the near the goal line, but he had a pretty good game other than that. So he'll be able to run through the Bears defense. I just think the Patriots are by far the better team in this matchup, so I don't mind laying the 8 points. Evan, who you got?
Patriots roll in this one. Bill Belichick and the Patriots defense feasts on young quarterbacks and bad offensive lines. Like the Bears definitely have those.
And as I mentioned earlier, Justin Fields has overtaken Marcus Mariota to have the highest off-target passing rate in the NFL this season.
Oh, jeez. I mean, you add in the coaching mismatch, you add in the Patriots being at home, and then on top of that, the Bears defense is awful too. Like the Patriots should be favored by like 15 or something. Like just definitely Pats here.
A whole extra touchdown might be a little bit much, but
It's a little
Eric, who you got with the 8-point spread that it stands at?
So Bill Belichick was asked in his press conference about the Bears.
He spent 8 minutes.
Yeah, 8 minutes and over 1,000 words singing their praises and talking about, just
1,000 words.
how great. And Bill Belichick doesn't say that about anybody.
He doesn't say anything.
Yeah, and he decided that he was going to spend all this time.
He does this all the time.
I know, but he does it for one specific reason, and he does it with the Bears specifically because he knows they're booty butt cheeks and they're going to blow them out. So he's going to say a bunch of nice stuff about them.
Okay, I was waiting for that part because
Yes.
he does this all the time, but he always does it about bad teams.
Yes, he did it about the Jeff Fisher Rams, where he spent like 5 minutes singing the praises of the punter, which was to be fair, he was really good.
Yes, Hecker is really good.
Yeah, excellent punter. And it was like, okay, that's great. Take the Patriots and lay the points because they're about to blow this team out, and they did. So yeah,
And we saw the punter a lot. We got to see just how good he was.
Patriots -8.
Did them a lot of good.
Book it, cash it, whatever. I'm not even. The Patriots have played the Bills. They play them every 4 years. They always kick their ass. It's like them versus the Lions too. They always beat the hell out of those NFC North bad teams. They just drub them every time.
We will see how things go this week because we have done very poorly the last couple of weeks. The Bills, Rams, Vikings, and Eagles are all on bye this week, so
So we're missing some of the better teams, which is going to make this spread zone experience even worse. No Bills and no Eagles.
yeah,
That's rough.
it is rough. Yeah, I mean that's potentially the Super Bowl matchup this year.
That's like your whole fantasy team too.
Well, the Eagles are 3 of my players.
That's what I'm saying.
The Bills are 5 of Alex Mayo's players.
Why couldn't I play y'all this week? Right? Like, come on. Help me out. I need all the help I can get. I got DJ Moore on my team, and he's just locked in jail.
I feel pretty good about beating Alex last week.
You should. It seems really good.
That was a pretty big win for me. By the way, shout out to Sean Kennedy, the lone remaining undefeated team. He's been a little bit lucky. He has 2 wins where he was in the bottom 6 in scoring, but he's 6-0. So
You don't usually go undefeated
There
this
you
late
go.
without a couple of lucky wins.
yeah. So shout out to him. I hope you lose soon, specifically when we play against each other in a few weeks. But yeah, that is everything in our show notes. The Game 2 of the NLCS went final, and the Padres won. What was it, 8-3 or 8-5?
8-5.
Yep, 8-5. The Yankees and the Astros traded runs in the second inning, so that game is 1-1 in the bottom of the third right now. Jamison
Harrison
Taillon,
Bader hit a home run. Apparently.
yeah, he's been hitting a lot of home runs. And then for the Astros, it looks like it was a
Maldonado RBI.
yeah. Yep, Maldonado drove in McCormick. So keep an eye on that, and by the time that we talk with you guys again next week, those series will be almost wrapped up or possibly wrapped up, depending on how quickly they go.
And a quick run around the NBA. The Magic and the Pistons are playing. That's an interesting matchup because of the young talent on those teams. The Pistons are up 91-83 heading to the fourth. The Washington Wizards are up 87-75 against the Pacers with just a couple of ticks left in the third quarter.
Pacers aren't very good right now.
No, they're terrible, and Miles Turner's not playing, so that's probably the reason.
And that could still evaporate.
Possibly,
I know
yeah.
I don't know who Miles Turner is.
Yeah. So the Hawks are beating the Rockets by 5 midway through the third quarter there. The Pelicans are up 8 points at the half on the Nets. The Bulls and Heat are tied at the half. The Cavaliers are up 6 on the Raptors at half. The Grizzlies are up 15 on the Knicks at half. No surprise there. The Knicks are terrible. The Timberwolves, the new-look T-Wolves, are up 11 midway through the second quarter on the tanking Thunder. And the Hornets, the Charlotte Hornets, are beating the crap out of the Spurs. These are two teams that are thoroughly in the Wembanyama tank fest. So, bad news for the Hornets, I guess. They're up by 21. And then we've still got the Nuggets and Jazz play at 9 o'clock. Mavericks and Suns on ESPN at 10. Rematch of the second round last year, 7-game series. And the Trailblazers and the Kings play each other in a toilet bowl at 10 o'clock as well. Nobody's watching that one.
And all of our listeners, those games will all be final by the time that you hear this sometime tomorrow.
Probably.
I want to mention that the Ravens signed Deshaun Jackson. Make of that what you will.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and wrap up the show. Want to thank everybody for listening. You can find us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. That's a great way to find out when we're going to be going live. So if you were expecting us to be live at 8 o'clock and you were surprised to find us already halfway through our show at that point, we did tweet out earlier today the link to the show and told you what time we were going to go. So make sure you follow us on there.
Per our previous email.
You can also follow us individually. I'm at Corey Puffett. Eric is at Quagmire67, and Evan is at Evan_Ash13. You can send us emails, thesportsballers@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Twitter if you have mailbag questions. We love to get mailbag questions. We don't get a whole lot of them. We did have one last week, so that was cool. You can find this podcast wherever you're listening to it right now. In addition, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and our shows always stay up on YouTube after the live show. But YouTube is where you can tune in live and join the conversation in the chat. We try to keep an eye on the chat through the show and acknowledge any comments that seem to address something that would be useful for us to mention and maybe further discuss. Any shout outs this week before we get out of here?
I've got a few, or a couple, I guess. Shout out to James Daly. I got some mail from him today. He's helped me out. And then shout out to my friend Jeremy Shepard for hosting me this weekend up in New York City.
Yes.
And putting up with my craziness when it comes to going to amusement parks.
You hit a pretty big milestone this week.
Yes. Coaster number 200 for me. The Coney Island Cyclone. It was actually really good as well as being really old. So, it's probably the most famous roller coaster of all time. So,
was it worth number 200?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Where would you rank it on your top 200?
I started preparing my rankings before our show, actually. So I would guess it's in the top half. It was the best ride out of the 8, 9 coasters we rode. So
so the other ones might not be in the top half. That's rough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of not so great coasters in that list, it sounds like.
Yeah. Hope you like Pain.
Jeez. I do not. I do not like Pain. Any other shout-outs, Evan?
It's a negative shout-out. Can I do a negative shout-out?
Sure, go ahead.
Shout-out to all the the Giants fans who gave me a bunch of cat calls on my way out of the stadium on Sunday afternoon. That was a mess.
They beat your team.
Yeah, but y'all can still shut up. You don't have to be rude about it. Okay.
It's New York. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. New York people, y'all got on my nerves real bad. Another negative shout out for the Giants deciding to move to New Jersey. They should still play at Yankee Stadium. It was impossible to get out of there.
I feel like it would also be impossible to get out of there if it was at Yankee Stadium.
Yankee Stadium, you just get right on the train. It's right there.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. You get the subway.
Yeah, but Meadowlands is just a big parking lot in a swamp. So
With a big building that like almost covers it from the turnpike now.
oh yeah, and the stadium is ugly too. Just
It is kind of an ugly stadium. Eric, any shout outs?
I've got quite a few. So I forgot last week to shout out Alice in Chains and Bush and whoever the other band was there.
Any other guys?
Breaking Benjamin. I saw them in Jersey.
Breaking Benjamin's good.
They are good. Yeah, I don't know why I was brain farting on them because probably because I was mixing up because I went to a show last night too, and I'll get to them in a second. But yeah, Greg and I went up.
Meadowlands?
No, not the Meadowlands. We went up to I don't know what the hell the place is called, but it was pretty close to about 40 minutes outside of New York. We saw that show. So shout out to those bands. They put on a great sets, each of them. And then we went over and I picked up a less remarkable milestone. I got coaster credit number 120 on the Little Jersey Devil, which we did not ride when Evan and I went up there back in April because I didn't realize I actually cared about credits. Yeah. And I wasn't about to hop on a kiddie coaster, and Evan wasn't brazen enough to say, well, screw you, I'm getting on it anyway, because I would have looked at him sideways like, why does he want to get on this kiddie coaster? Let's just ride Nitro a bunch more times. But, so I got that one. And then last night went to see the Smashing Pumpkins, who were touring with Jane's Addiction, and some group called Poppy. I'm assuming the young lady that was singing is Poppy, but she was something else. Like she's like this cute girl, probably like 20-something, has a sweet little voice until they started playing the music and she started screaming, and I was like, oh my god, like bloody murder type of stuff that only white people would like, but I'm white, so I liked it. So there you go. And then finally, shout out to Jasir Taylor, who you guys may not be familiar with, but I am, and you were familiar with the play that he made, which was the play of the game on that awful Monday Night Football game, the Chargers and the Broncos. Jasir Taylor was the gunner who blocked the blocker into the return man to create the muff punt, even though he called for a fair catch, which saved us from a potential tie, gave the Chargers the win. Shout out to Dustin Hopkins as well, who was dying after every kick, but still getting him to go through the uprights. And a negative shout out to you, Brandon Staley, just because I don't like you. And you, Nat Hackett PI, I don't like you either.
Nat Hackett PI.
I first want to acknowledge Charlie Trippi, former Arizona Cardinal from back in the 40s and 50s. He was the oldest living member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but he died today. He was 100 years old. So now I believe Art McNally is the oldest. Either him or Marv Levy. I know they're both in their upper 90s at this point. But just want to kind of acknowledge him because he was a really good player back in the earlier days of the NFL. Kind of a Sammy Ball type. He could run, he could pass, he could punt, and kick, and he played defensive back. So like a lot of really good players back in that time, he did a little bit of everything on the field. Also want to just give a quick shout out to the Demetha cross country team. Still running really well. He got second place at our meet this past weekend. The team that beat us is ranked number 2 in the state of Maryland, so no shame in that.
When's the WCAC championship? It's going to be that time.
Yep, WCAC championship is going to be next Saturday, and it's
the 29th.
The 29th. It'll be at Kenilworth Park, which is in Northeast DC, only about a 15-minute drive from DeMatha, literally right off of Route 50. So very close by, and that should be a lot of fun.
Go Stags.
Yeah. It's going to be a dogfight between us, St. John's, and Gonzaga. The Heights will probably mix into things a little bit. They'll have a couple, like a runner or two who are up there. I don't expect them to be one of the top 3 teams when all is said and done. But some of their finishers are going to be pretty key in terms of displacing runners, and we got to make sure they're not displacing us. So that's going to be a really fun race. But we have one more tune-up this Saturday in Durwood, Maryland, at the Agricultural Farm Park.
Agricultural.
I don't remember, Evan. Did you ever run there?
Clearly
I've never
not.
heard
So
of that.
it was the private school state championship course for us at
Glenelg?
least my junior and senior year, but I think it might have been there my freshman year as well. I know Glenelg wasn't Glenelg your junior year, or was that your senior year?
It was both.
Oh, was it? Oh, did we run there twice?
Yeah, I always
Okay.
look forward to that race because that was a
Okay.
home game, right? You didn't have to get up at 5 in the morning on Saturday too.
But yeah, so shout out to those guys. They're still running really well. And now we're just trying to set up for a championship race.
Yeah, I got one
Maybe
more.
they have a good coach.
Got to shout out your boy Stephen McDonald, who joined us on the
Oh, yes.
broadcast
Yes.
on Friday in the 3-man booth, which I wasn't sure how that was going to work.
I think it worked out really well.
I thought it was great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. He knows more about football than us, which is hilarious because we're on here yakking about football for literally hours every week. And he's talking about like the 03 playoffs between the Giants and the 49ers. And I'm like, dude, you weren't even alive when that game was played. And yeah, I was actually watching football. I don't know what you're talking about.
Is
Like-
that the Steve Mariucci bummer play? The Trey Junkin
Yes.
playoff game?
Yes, that's the one. He also made a reference. I guess he had been watching the entirety of the 03 playoffs on like some found footage because he also mentioned the Patriots-Titans divisional round game from 2003, same year. But yeah, he a lot of fun. Seemed to really be enjoying himself.
and we
Knew a
get
lot
to do
about
it
the
again
team.
next Friday
Yep, can't
against
wait.
a team from Canada.
Yeah, Canadian football. You don't know her.
Anyway.
With that,
DeMatha didn't schedule Bishop Sycamore this year.
No,
This feels like it could be a Bishop Sycamore, though. To be honest.
they play a lot
Canadian
of teams.
school.
Like this one's legit.
So did Bishop Sycamore. They were playing
we
everybody.
Vetted them. We vetted them this time. Yeah, that's gonna do it for episode 214 of the Sports Ballers podcast. Want to thank you all for tuning in. If you made it this far, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. I don't think that any of the other podcast services have a place for reviews, which is stupid. But yeah, listen on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. We would love to get another one. It's been a little while since we had one. That'll do it. Until next week, I'm Corey. For Eric and Evan, this has been the Sports Ballers podcast, and we hope you all take care. Have a great week.